and welcome back to the Future Talks conducted by Prayaana. I'm Aishwarya and I'll be the host for the day. Let's begin the session with a small introduction to Prayaana. Prayaana, a unique employability, entrepreneurship, and innovation ecosystem for women. Prayaana Lab gives wholesome career support services right from career counseling, training, mentoring, and recruitment services under one umbrella. If you're a girl out there in your graduation or post-graduation who's trying to enhance your skills for recruitment, this is a great platform for you. In case you're a professional who's trying to upgrade yourself at your workplace, this is still the right place for you to get enrolled. If you're trying to come back to your career after a long break, this is still the right place for you. So definitely check us out at www.prayaana.org. If you like what you see, you can join us by registering at www.prayaana.in or download the Prayaana app. It's a community hub where you can network, share your thoughts and queries with women of similar interests. We also provide you mentorship programs and learning modules for international and well-acclaimed mentors. So definitely check out our app. This is Prayaana Collective, a venture of Prayaana. It is unique in the attribute that it is India's first e-commerce platform that is dedicated for the empowerment of women. If you're a woman entrepreneur out there and you're trying to expand your business or your customer base and trying to promote your product, our platform is definitely suitable for you. The platform is uniquely designed with an attractive affiliated marketing module where all the customers are given an opportunity for lifetime savings and earnings. So definitely check us out at www.prakol.com. In case if you have any queries during the session, please feel free to post it as a comment in the live chat box below and we'll get back to you at the end of the session. Today's session is on the topic, The Future of Learning, taken by Ms. Pooja Bose, Principal of High Range School, Munnar. She is a BSc in Child Development and a BA from Delhi University, MA English, MA Education, CLT from Cambridge University. She's also the founder principal of Delhi Public School, Rudrapur, and principal of K.R. Mangalam World School. With a teaching experience of 28 years, she has been committed to enhancing the development of learning of students and teachers by holding counseling sessions and panel discussions centered around meaningful schooling. She has also been counseling parents about homeschooling, which is now a way of life. She's been a wide speaker and a voiceover advocate of progressive education. She has been a panelist in several national events and awarded numerous awards like American Leadership Board Award, the Passionate Educators Award by SEAS Global Women Awardees. A warm welcome to the show, ma'am, and over to you.
Thank you, Aishwarya and Prayaana, for giving me this opportunity once again to interact with all of you. I hope I'm audible enough. Okay. Now, it's wonderful to once again be with all of you. And the topic of today's talk is the future of learning. And let me tell you that I'm no astrologer that I'm going to predict the future of learning. But collectively, I think we all can make some educated guesses as to what the future of learning is going to look like. So we already have some answers, and I would say that we have to change the questions to suit those answers. And for that, we have to be ready for a change which is already there. So basically, we have to change our mindsets about reimagining the classrooms and reimagining the way we teach. So the future of learning is going to look quite different from its present state of affairs. So having said that, I'll take you through a presentation so that we kind of ponder and understand and think about how the learning is going to change. Because as I understand, most of us are parents or teachers or students, and we are curious to know that how our life is going to change very soon. So I hope you all can see this presentation, and we are going to have an insight into the future of learning. Now, the COVID-19 pandemic, as you all know, has changed education forever. This is not a temporary change. This is a change for good or bad, and this is how it is going to look like. The March 23rd statistics show that 1.38 billion students or learners were impacted by school closures all over the world. And with this impact came a realization that we had built buildings and we had invested in campuses and we had invested in furniture and sports facilities, and suddenly all of those were gathering dust. And what is the way forward to this? How are we going to imagine that we'll come back to normal, maintaining all the health protocols intact? Well, I'll begin with a quote by Oscar Wilde, which says that education is an admirable thing, but it is well to remember from time to time that nothing that is worth learning can be taught. I'll repeat that nothing that is worth learning can be taught. Some of you may not agree with this quote, but the next line will be certainly something which you will agree to, and that is that most of what we learn before, during, and after attending schools is learned without it being taught to us. How to walk, how to talk, and how to eat. This certainly demystifies and removes the authority of the teacher about being the center of a classroom. So what Oscar Wilde said here was that children don't learn anything that is taught. In fact, everything is learned when you are willing to learn it. And most of the things which we earlier talked about were the 21st century skills are taught during the school hours, before the school hours, and after the school hours, but not really taught, but they are just learned. So the authority figure of teacher has kind of diminished, and suddenly her stature has come down. Now, 1.2 billion children are out of their classrooms today. And as a result, education has changed dramatically. And there's a rise in e-learning. There's a rise in e-learning and digital platforms. The research does say that e-learning is definitely better than face-to-face learning. I know that most of you will say, no, it is not. But let me add a rider to this. Good quality e-learning is much better than face-to-face learning. The reason is simple, that there is better retention, there is better learner experience in e-learning, and the learners can go over and over the lessons which are being taught through the digital platform time and again. So having said that, the e-learning 1.2, the rise of e-learning is bound to be there. And it is a matter of time that all the schools will have e-learning hybrid platforms, wherein we will realize that partially some of the things which we have to teach will be through the digital platforms, and partially they will be face-to-face learning module. So a hybrid system is going to emerge sooner than ever. The academic schedules all across the world have been disrupted, but in India, they have been disrupted more than ever. And the reason it has happened more in India is because earlier we never really took the e-learning platform seriously. Why we didn't take that? There are a couple of reasons. We had spotty Wi-Fi, and there were electricity outages, and the synchronous virtual classrooms are proving to be very strenuous for the teachers because they are not used to working with technology. They have not been trained to working with technology. So currently, there's a stressful situation for both the students and the teachers because the teachers have never been trained, never been prepared to use this medium of instruction. The situation at home is such that the parents were not ready to prepare their children for e-learning platforms. So they still have mobile data through which they are taking classes. They do not have sufficient learning devices to give to both their children. So they are giving them their own smartphones, and then in between calls come and the children have to give the phone back to the parent, and there is a disruption in the classes. So the entire situation is stressful for the learner as well as the teacher. And the limited computer access is more in the places in cities which are not metros. Please understand that in metros, still the situation is good, more robust as compared to the smaller towns. Now, what does this mean for the future of learning? See, the knee-jerk reaction towards e-learning, which has happened currently, is an unplanned move. And with insufficient bandwidth and little preparation, the user experience in e-learning is very poor. And this is not very conducive to the sustained growth and of e-learning platform. For a sustained growth of this system of education, we will have to have a planned system of teaching and learning. The training modules, the preparation at home and at school has to be such that we give them an enriching user experience. But this is not what has happened. And there are some people who believe that the hybrid model of education will eventually emerge. This is just a little bit of mess before the method to the madness emerges. So we will have to sustain and bear with these confusions and these factors till a clearer picture of how the entire education policy has to be remodeled will emerge. And it will obviously be having more benefits as to the present state. So what are we looking at? We are looking at an integration of information technology in education, and it will be further accelerated, and online education will eventually become an integral component of school education. So remember that this is just a catalyst, this is just a trigger, which is going to lead us to a situation when e-learning is going to be an integral part of school education system. Now, the changing education is imperative. Earlier, when we were teaching, that is before March, we were all said and done more concerned about the completion of syllabus. And this I'm talking from a very practical aspect. And many of my teachers say that after the activities and the group discussions and the other, the other playful things in the classroom are over, we have to get down to the core business of completion of syllabus. So the topics like maybe integration, differentiation, scientific concepts, periodic tables, etc., grammar, all this has to be ultimately taught through the lecture method. That's what educators believe in traditional schools. I am not talking about the innovative schools and the schools which have a very different approach towards education. I'm talking about an average traditional school in India. They believe that it is important to get good marks in exams. 80% of the weightage of exams is based on question and answers. So you have to memorize the concepts, lot of which are rote learning concepts. So this is how our traditional system of learning was going on. It was, instead of being skill-based or critical thinking based, it was more on memorization. And it was clear that the students who were the high scorers in CBSE exams were the ones who could memorize facts well and who could also reproduce or vomit out those things in the question papers. So we used to go for 10 years question papers so that we know that the kind of questions which are repeated will have more likelihood of being repeated again. There wasn't much weightage given to critical thinking. Now, with the move to online learning, this is just a catalytic moment for all of us, and we will have no choice but to resort to more effective ways of learning. And our focus on skills like critical thinking, collaborative thinking, creativity, empathy is going to be there now, because this is the only way when that e-learning mode works. So e-learning mode works by simply giving the controls of learning, and the progress of the lesson, the controls come in the hands of the students and not the teachers. So it's more autonomous and it is more collaborative. So these are the skills which eventually will have to be developed in our students and in our teachers. So this is a change which is bound to happen. I'd like to say that when Denmark opened its schools on 14th of April, uh, daycare centers opened, schools opened, but the concern was that the schools might become the breeding grounds of the second wave of pandemic. And the parents felt that my kid is not going to be the new guinea pig. And many well-heeled middle-class parents also felt that they would prefer that their child does not go back to school for some time for health reasons. So that they said that what is more important, I prioritize my child's health more than his school learning experience. So they, by choice, even though the school was open, didn't send the child to school because they were simply very nervous. Coming to the other category, which was of the poor parents, they said that because they had lost jobs, because their earnings have diminished, they anyway will not be able to send their children to school. They don't have the money to pay the fee. And for a long, long time, this is going to be the trend that the offsprings will not go back to school. So there's a linked question to this. Are we going to see an upswing of homeschooling? Already, although this is too early to say, but if 2 or more lockdowns happen, do you think that homeschooling will be the only option left for most of the students? The other thing is that the hybrid model is going to emerge. So at a given point of time, we will not have more than 30% students attending schools. So we are here to see a change in the trend very soon. Now, the other change which we are going to see is the fact that fewer kids are going to go out of town, far away from home, or overseas to study. Remember that to clear competitive exams, students were going to quota, or the students were, huddled in small rooms together to prepare themselves for IAS coaching in towns here and there. Academies were running and they were having small shelters, small hostels to have students staying with them. All this is going to go for quite a long time. Parents feel that they have to make a choice now. It is a choice between competitive exams and the safety of their young ones. And obviously, they show that this virus is here to stay, and therefore they have to make a choice to go for a safer way of learning. Again, very few students are going to go overseas to study. Imagine the parents who have paid fee for their children to study abroad and their children are back home and taking online classes. It's very taxing time for the parents as well. And all over the world, universities have been closed and are delivering education online. And every educational conference, international sessions, events are cancelled or turned into a series of webinars. Now, the government is starting to open society slowly and restart businesses. And slowly, of course, the universities will also be opening their campuses. But nevertheless, new modes of social distancing will continue to apply for quite some time, and it will affect on-campus learning in physical spaces. So the international education will be hit to quite an extent, and the international mobility is also going to go down. There's going to be problem of visas also, because there's going to be a huge whole lot of paperwork to be done to get a visa. There's going to be a long spell of home quarantines, and so as a result, to avoid all the mess and all the tension and anxiety. And then there's going to be the scare of another lockdown happening, and the children again being called back, and skyrocketing airfares. All these things are going to lead to a situation when parents are going to dissuade themselves from sending the children back to the international campuses. Sports has already taken a big hit. And remember, the fist bump and the high five and the warm handshake, the hug, everything is going to stop for a long time. The personal greeting, the warmth, the intimacy of a team coming together, the bonhomie, everything has taken a hit, and it's not happening anymore. The classes will go from social to asocial, and the friendship and the social networking, the campus bonding, everything has gone down dramatically. And the class of tomorrow, it seems, will lack warmth, that feeling of huddle, being together, the group factor, that we are one family, or we are in it together, is not going to happen for quite some time. But I'm sure with e-learning, new models will emerge of being warm and having a feeling of being together. There's going to be a new phase of social interactions very soon. What about gyms? What about swimming pools, track and field events? We recently saw one soccer event happening in Germany, minus all the audiences. And I don't know how it looked, but they had the audiences were cheering for their team virtually. And I don't know, the entire uh, audio effect of the spectators cheering has a kind of magical impact on the players. I'm sure they must be missing that. Um, then the schools are going to be in 2 or 3 shifts. That means that maybe the schools will run in a way that the social distancing factor remains intact. And this will put additional pressure on teachers, no doubt, because they'll have to teach the same concept again and again, again and again. And however, the good news is for the children, because I have known schools with 60 students also sitting in one class. And when during the zero period, when the teacher was supposed to take attendance, she could not complete the entire the name roll call in one period. So she had to resort to taking attendance through numbers, through only roll numbers. So that was the state. So, but now, good for those students, because they'll be reduced to 1/3 the capacity. In one room only 20 students can sit, and they'll be having better learning experiences in the classroom. And the teachers also will be able to give individual attention to the students. So pressure on the teachers, but good for the students. Well, coming to the impact on mental health, the social distance will lead to maybe children becoming socially distant also. The school was a great leveler in a way, that when the students used to come wearing same uniform, sitting in a similar classroom with the same set of furniture and getting the same instructions, that kind of brought an equity in the classroom. And there was no such variation visible, at least in the forefront. And children were taking education equally. It was perceived equally by all the students. However, e-learning is different. E-learning, the one child is sitting in an air-conditioned environment, having great Wi-Fi network, high-speed internet, great learning device, and the other one is sitting in an overcrowded room and jumpy internet, and he's getting constantly distracted by the noise in the room. The entire economic inequity is visible and has its impact on the learning of the child also. So The technology which allows one student to access class from a comfortable environment in a quiet corner to another category of students who are accessing learning through an overcrowded room will further socially distance the class. And surely, this was not the real intention of social distancing, but it has happened, and the children are feeling socially distant from each other because of their economic backgrounds. Now, the teaching will certainly go tech, and which means that remote teaching, remote instructions, they require three important things. And they are capable computational technology, a reliable internet service, and, last but not the least, electricity. However, in our country, all these three things are a big challenge. Zoom is not e-learning. So to enable remote learning, technology will kick in big time. But remote instruction requires that students have access to both capable computing technology and a reliable internet service, and also good electricity. What we forget is that right now we are only looking at the surface. We are looking at what digital platforms to use, Zoom or Google Classroom or WebEx. But that's not what learning is. Ultimately, we have to see the quality of the learner's experiences. So now we have to enrich the learner's experience. We have to ensure that our children take over 3D learning. I mean, we have to prepare lessons with 3D experiences. We have to go for Google Earth. We have to go for Google Moon. We've not even heard about Google Moon. Recently, I was attending one seminar from Australia, which was conducted by CBSC. And the trainer was talking about making colonies on another planets, on the moon. He was talking about a tool called Google Moon. We have never even heard about these things. We don't even discuss these things with our children. Another international educator said that India, in terms of education, is 60 years behind than the kind of education we are delivering in Gulf, for example, or in Western countries. We are behind in our technology. We are also behind in the quality of our lessons which we are delivering virtually. So we need to understand that all these things have to really, really undergo a change. So technology will be about the content, not only about the container, as they say. And it is possible to become, enamored with the technology and distracted by the devices which are related to technology. But that is not sufficient. We have to give sufficient attention to what we are teaching through these devices. So combined with the proliferation of devices, what is important is the content, the quality of the content which you are giving, and also the experiences which you are giving. Are you asking the students to collaborate through the network? Are you building learning communities? All these things are vital to the kind of learning that we are engaging in. Learning which is called remote learning, but which involves many other strategies which currently we are not resorting to. One of them is collaborating and making learning communities. So the idea is that it's more than just content. It is more than just the gadgets. It's also about connections. It is also about communities. And technologies can only enable you, catalyze and support us in future. Well, there are a couple of challenges in online learning. Who wouldn't know that better than the teachers? The reason is that the teachers today are feeling very stressful. They are themselves not having steady internet at homes. So to expect them to give a consistent learning experience to the students is kind of asking for the moon. So first and foremost, there are so many challenges. One of the foremost is lack of reliable internet services. So the access to internet is something which should be thought about by our policymakers now, by our governments. And we have to have access to computer. For example, I'd like to put in some data here. 95% of the students in Switzerland, Norway, and Austria, they have computer to use for their schoolwork. Only 34% students in Indonesia have access to computers. In India, this figure is much lower. In United States alone, there is a significant gap between those from privileged and disadvantaged backgrounds. And virtually all 15-year-olds from privileged backgrounds said they had a computer to work on, but only 25% from disadvantaged backgrounds had a computer to use. So you can well imagine that we are in a worse state than these countries. So what we call the digital divide is a big reality and is going to impact so many students and generations. And already there's a talk of 2020 being a 0 year. So I do not know how we are going to bridge this divide, at least in 2020. But it's time now for the government to think seriously about providing internet and gadgets to each and every learner as a matter of right to education. They have a right to quality education, right? So we have to think about these facilities being provided to the students just the way we thought about schools, books, uniform, midday meals. So this is another point which has been added to that list. The importance of disseminating knowledge is highlighted through COVID-19. After SARS, there was a rise in e-commerce. Suddenly, there was, there are some major world events which lead to an inflection in the world order, and there is a rapid innovation happening worldwide. One example I just gave you, that post SARS, there was a rise in e-commerce. I'm believing that post COVID-19 also there will be an inflection point and there'll be rapid innovation one way or the other, which means that there's going to be another revolution in the field of learning, and e-learning has really not dried up. The good point is that the investment in e-learning has not dried up. There is plenty of scope, there are plenty of opportunities, there are plenty of business models which can be created right now in order to have a splendid model of learning and teaching in our country. What has been made clear through this pandemic is the importance of disseminating knowledge across borders and across companies in all parts of the society. Now, it is upon us to explore the full potential of e-learning. Till now, it has not been explored completely. There are a number of investment opportunities in e-learning which have yet to be explored, and we have to basically explore those potentials. Having said that, technology is also not about, is not just in education. Technology is not alone the only enabler. There are so many other factors which we have to keep in mind. At present, if we look at our government schools, we will see a true crisis in education. You know that there is a single teacher, young teacher, sometimes even untrained, managing a class of say 40 to 50 students, and in a dull classroom. And what kind of enriching environment are we giving our children in villages? We talk a lot about quality education, but if you see the government-run schools in rural areas, you'll see that there is maybe it's a sorry state of affairs. You can look at their toilets, you can look at their playgrounds, you can look at their learning equipments, and they'll show you the reality. Then we also have a group of people who are talking about how technology can help transform all of this. So if only, what I'm trying to say is that the physical reality of our schools can change if only we change the virtual reality of our country. no doubt technology can transform education, but will it percolate down to the basic level of our country, to the people on the ground, to the people in the villages, to the people, to the schools, students studying in deserts? Is it, can this e-educational revolution actually happen in our country? That is the vital question. And once that happens, our children, lot of our children who have been deprived of quality learning will get access to good quality learning through the virtual medium. The other important aspect which we need to understand is that now learning is going to be mobile. It's going to be faster, it's going to be better, and it's going to have smarter connectivity. And it's going to be a boon for the workforces. One important thing which we all realize is that mobility was always necessary in learning. Now, we believe that the students had to travel 1 hour, 2 hours to reach their schools in Delhi and all. Children are traveling starting at 6:30 in the morning to reach their school at 8:30 because of the traffic jams and other problems. And by the time the child reaches the classroom, he's tired, he's already, dehydrated and is sleepy because he has slept late in the previous night in order to complete homework, or was he on mobile watching a game, etc. So now the learning is going to be mobile, it's going to be fun, it's going to be more engaging, and it's going to be less tiresome because the unnecessary time involved in traveling, in activities which were not really, commensurating with the learning process will go off. So there's going to be learning in the flow of work, which means that while you're working, maybe you must have finished your graduation and then you plan to take up a job, and you plan to learn as you work. And that is going to be the trend in the coming days. In the flow of work, you will not be quitting your jobs to learn, because learning is becoming mobile and it is becoming more convenient. And that's going to be the informal training methods, which will be embedded in the day-to-day working. It's going to be, the trend is going to be the right content at the right time to the right person. So there will not be any unnecessary instructional information being given to the learners unless they seek it. So the lot of impetus is going to be given to what is it you want as a learner. So embedding of trainings and learning programs in the work life is going to be a new goal, and which will be also called, there's a term called micro learning, in that you will have smaller modules to learn rather than a 2-year program or a 3-year program or a 5-year program. This is going to happen once your basic learning or basic, say for example, your graduation is done, and post that you will be engaging in micro learning. So what will happen as a result? Lot of wasted time will be eliminated, lot of energy will go, and employees will be learning as they work. Well, another great revolution which is going to come up is the gig economy, which is actually the rise of non-salaried jobs. People are not, we derive a lot of safety and security from the fact that we have a job and we have monthly incomes and we have an organization in which we are working. But let me make you realize that this is short-lived. There's going to be a rise of gig economy in which the companies and the organizations are going to hire you short time for the services which are specialized services, and you are going to provide those services, and they will call you back whenever they need those specialized services again. So they are not going to engage you throughout the year. They'll call you and recall you time and again. This is called the gig economy, which is linked to the gigs which happen in music and in the field of music, that singers and vocalists and musicians are called for one evening, and there is no, complete hiring of a musical group in that way. So this is going to be a gig economy in future. Learning will be incentivized. So a lot of emphasis will be given to those professionals who believe in the process of learning and who will enjoy learning, who will engage in learning as a way of life. And there will be benefits attached to learning. Learning will be also connected with emotions. So the people who are telling a story, the people who exhibit empathy, the people who engage your senses are going to be more sought after as compared to the people who just give you the facts and data. So learning will have emotions added to it. The more emotions you add, the better learning experience as a teacher you'll be giving. So empathy and emotions are the new highs in learning field. Coming to the question, is online learning effective? Well, quality online learning is certainly more effective. Research has shown on an average, students retain 25 to 60% of the things that they learn online as compared to only 8 to 10% in the classroom. So which means that the students are able to learn faster online, provided you give them an enriching learning experience online as compared to the traditional classroom settings. So this shows that the more autonomy you give to the student, the more effective it becomes. Well, it is certainly more effective. Now, what is also necessary to understand is that we need to provide a structured environment to the students. So online education is different for senior students as compared to the junior ones. The junior ones would require more hand-holding and a structured environment, and the senior students will be given more controls in their hands, and there will be more flip teaching in case of senior students and less in case of junior students, because the junior students will look up to you to give them certain basic instructions. To get the full benefit of online learning, there is need to be a concerted effort to provide the structure and go beyond replicating the physical classroom. So the biggest mistake which teachers are making today is that they are just duplicating their physical classroom pedagogies in their online teaching. This is, like I said before, you have to have a more collaborative approach in online teaching. Now, e-learning is one of the few sectors where investment has not dried up, so there is a lot of room for improvement. And yes, gamification of learning is another great revolution. And what we need to do is that there are a lot of games available online for different subjects, and we need to use those games for learning experiences. So there is a lot of scope for people to make new educational games. So we have to also think about this as a new work or job area which is opening up. So gamification of learning is another big thing which is going to happen. The user generated content, which means that learners are now going to prepare content for other learners. So content which is created for the learners by the learners is a new thing, and there are going to be new learning communities being formed, and this will accelerate the content creation because a learner knows what another learner needs by matter of empathy. So there is going to be a great deal of knowledge which is going to be available by the learners for their own kind. And you could harness that knowledge in such a way that you can share it with others in your organization. So there's going to be a lot of sharing and networking. Just-in-time learning is the last thing which I'd like to tell you, that this modern learning platform will be designed to eliminate wastage of time, and employees will learn at their own time and at their own pace and whenever they want and whatever they want. So there's a lot of autonomy which is going to happen. So the future of learning, dear viewers, is good, provided we understand that now is the time to enhance the quality and the learners' experiences more than anything else. We're past that stage of gadgets and learning platforms. We already know most of them. Now, what we have to work on and emphasize on is the quality of our lessons, which will engage our children for times to come. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. I'll be happy to take questions from
Yes,
the
ma'am. We have a few questions. A question from Virinchi is, what will be the impact on non-sporting extracurricular activities?
Yes. Like I said in my presentation, that there's going to be a long time when the effect of a stadium or the cheers from the audience or the team huddles or the high fives, all these things are going to go. And we recently had a soccer event in Germany where there were big screens and the viewers were cheering for their teams. They could hear the applaud on the screens, that is the players could hear, and they were getting boosted. Having said that, I don't see very many sporting events coming up in near future. When I say near future, I'm talking about a time when a vaccine for this COVID-19 develops, and the players are going to play, no doubt, because that business will go on, but the spectators will not be there as many in numbers. Thank you.
Ma'am, there is another question from Anandi Paul. She says, how to create awareness among students and parents so that they can be responsible to take e-learning seriously?
A very good question, because right now we are concerned about the parents being aware of the changes which are coming. See, the teachers have kind of accepted the fact that we are going to teach through this platform. The students also have accepted this reality. However, the parents have yet to be aware and to accept this new phase of life which has come in. And also the fact that not all parents have the economic ability to invest in technology, and also the belief of parents that we have paid the fee to the school, we have bought the books, and now it is for the school to teach. We are not going to make further investments, because they have been attuned to thinking in a way that education of their child is all about books, all about going to school, purchasing school bag. Now, to purchase a laptop for the child, to have the whole home becoming Wi-Fi for the child, that's something which they are not accepting at present. So it's going to take some time, and I think we have to have more parenting sessions with the parents, more awareness sessions with the parents about this.
Okay, ma'am. So we have another question. How can the teachers prepare themselves for online classes?
The teachers have to become learners. Online classes, there is no formula for online classes, let me tell you. We have spoken a lot about flip learning and blended approach, but every content, every topic demands a different kind of planning. And if I give a ready-made model of lesson plan to you, it may not fit for another kind of subject or another kind of topic also. So one needs to understand that when we talk of blended learning, certainly the only model which is going to fit into online teaching is blended learning and flipped approach, in which you have to give a pre-teach content to the students to study, to prepare. And when the students come online, discussions about that have to happen. And from that discussion has to emerge newer content and newer concepts. And then the actual solving of issues, solving of sums, solving of problems and numericals has to happen face to face through a live classroom. So this is, having said that, this is not a tailored approach. It's going to be customized for each topic. So that's how it is going to be.
Ma'am, then how will the teachers understand if the students have understand the concept or not? So in class, we see them face to face. So looking at the confused face, we identify that they have not understood the topic. So we'll re-explain without taking up their name. So how will this be done in online classes, ma'am?
In class, how do you get to know whether a student has understood what you taught? It is through questioning. You ask a question and the student gives you the answer. If the student gives you the wrong answer, you are made to believe that your concept was not understood properly. The same approach applies in this model also. But the only difference is that here you can't be questioning and everybody can't answer in unison. Maybe you will know that out of 20 children online, there 5 are the ones who are absolutely quiet, who are not participating in that Zoom discussion. You have to target or you have to spot those 5 students and ask them the right kind of questions, and they will. And then the other part is by giving online assignments. The best part is that there is no scope for the student peeping into another child's copy to see what answer you are writing. You can just, like in Zoom, you have a feature of polls. You have a feature of polls, and you can just have a ready polling done of what you've just taught, and the answers will be given right there in the moment. So there are so many handy tools which you can use to your advantage to ensure that, and give shorter modules. I always say that don't try to replicate a physical class with online class. Where you are teaching 5 concepts in online class, teach only 2.
Ma'am, another question. For example, now pre-nursery students like LKG, UKG students, they need the guidance support of teacher to be in this side, physical side. But how will this be implemented in online classes?
Yeah, this is a very good question, and I also think about these things. That we were talking about experiential learning. We were talking about students, having a lot of experiences in the classroom, like touch and auditory experience, smell experience, kinesthetic experiences, etc. Now, how in online class are we going to kind of ensure that these things happen? Now, here I would say that the participation of parent is very, very important. Up to class 3, I feel that the collaborative triangle between the parent, teacher, and student is going to form a very strong bond. And for the success of a virtual class in, say, class 1 or 2, the parent has to give equal contributions to the class. So if I am planning today a concept of big and small, for example, or tall and short, I want the parent to bring to the classroom few things which are tall and short. Maybe some pencils, maybe some ribbons, because that cooperation, unless done, will not have any success in an online class. Then the virtual experiential learning will not happen. And that is where we need to also understand that more than the senior students, the junior students need to come back to school. Because they are the ones who need social experiences also. They need a lot of other things. They need to learn a lot of other things besides academics. So yeah, it's going to have an impact.
Ma'am, we have another question from Sumati. How parents can watch whether the child is correct track of learning? She mentions how will the parents track whether the students are learning it correct? The correct track of learning is given to them for class from 9th to 12th, because they are from higher education, like in the high school. So how will we know that whether the children are getting the correct form of information from the teacher?
So from 9 to 12, the good news is that our governments have already e-learning platforms available. Some very good quality lessons are available on eDiksha and NCRT portals also. So those video lectures are kind of authenticated by the CBSE, and they have a certain quality standards. So I feel, and that's what I have shared with my teachers also, that we don't need to prepare everything ourselves in senior classes. We have the tools available, we have the content available online, but beyond that, we have to engage the students in the right form of questioning and assessments and quizzing, so that the follow-up of each lesson is done well, and every teacher knows her students well. So you have to customize these assessments and these questioning and post lesson experiences in your own way. So one does not really need to stand in front of the camera and deliver a lecture. It's already there on the internet. So that's how it is.
Ma'am, there is another question from Virichi. She says, are students more attentive online?
Like I said, there's a huge divide here. A student can never be attentive online if around the child, mother and father are arguing, or there's a small child, banging his toy against the wall. It's impossible to be attentive. So that's where the responsibility of the parent comes in, that the parent has to give a quiet corner to the child, ensure that the child has his breakfast, has taken bath, is wearing proper clothes, and sitting on the table, and there is nobody disturbing the child. If that is ensured, then the child will be attentive online. That is the home part of it. The teacher also has to give enriching experiences in her class, in his class, to ensure that the child is attentive online.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much. That was very informative session.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Now we come back to the feedback. So if you have any feedback, you can post it as a comment in our channel and we'll get back to you. For advertisement and sponsorships, you can mail us at joinprayaana@gmail.com. Thank you so much for watching, and do subscribe our channel. And if you like the video, definitely share it with your friends. See you guys on Monday, and bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.